So in this video I'd like to show you the preset booklet that I've made. It's basically just shortcuts and little tips and tricks that I have picked up from using the Digitakt and also using the Digitakt 2. In the booklet itself it will take you through different sort of sections. So you've got tape style effects, how to create sound, so like kicks, risers, sweeps, laser sound effects, hi-hats, compressor settings that I go to, along with the send effects, for like your drums, and maybe like a bass thickener sound, and then some essential shortcuts as well that you can use in your productions. So this booklet as well is basically for a guide. It's up to you and your material that you're putting on your Digitakt, whether you want to change the settings within it. But for example, like the tape start effects, you can increase the tape start time and the stop time by increasing like the speed of the LFO and things like that. Sound creation, basically the preset is to do with like the amp, the filter, the LFOs, but depending on your sample is how it's going to sound to you. So just you tweak the parameters to it suits best, but the gubbins of it is basically there for you to do whatever you want with it. You can purchase this booklet via the website, or you can sign up to Patreon. So on Patreon, there's different tiers. All the tiers basically are the same at the moment, which basically unlock all the sample packs, sampled instruments, everything, including this booklet as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, support myself so I can do more videos like this, then Patreon is probably the place to do that. Or if you just want to buy this booklet, you can head over to the website and just purchase it from there if you'd like to support myself. So with that said, I will get into the first example. So in this video, we're going to look at how we can design our own kicks out of almost anything. All we need is a short snippet of a sample or a waveform. So in this example, I've got a sort of square wave waveform. So what I want to do to repeat this is just to go over to the play mode and make sure that is in forward loop or reverse loop, so we've got a tone. Next thing we need to make sure is what is the bass tone, what is the root note, what we're going to make that as. So this is quite low as it is. So we need to decide on that. So I reckon about there. Now we want to control the tuning with an LFO. So if we head over to the LFO page, we'll just keep the settings as they are. Apart from this wave, we want to change this wave over to Expo, and then we want to change the mode over to trigger. We can then select the destination, obviously to be the tune. So when we press this and we increase depth, the tuning should go up and then come back down to its fundamental. So that's obviously too long, so we need to quicken that up a bit. Might be better putting it on 1, so it only goes through the waveform once. Can increase this. And then we can shape the amp envelope to what it is that we want. So if I just take the hold time all the way back and then just play about with the decay and hold time. We've got a nice solid kick. That is all dependent on the actual waveform itself. So even if we could change this over to something else. we'd get a totally different sound. Same with that. If I just looped this a loop over, but I would need to bring this tuning all the way down. And then I could put overdrive on there, bring a bit of brick crush in there, and then if it's getting a bit too much, I can use the filter to take some of them high frequencies out, boost it maybe at the lower fundamental, and then use the envelope. Put on key tracking. Even shorten it down a bit more. So we can do that, and we can also obviously use different samples to loop it in different areas. So on this example I've used a tom. That's basically a tom which is just looped, that's in the sample pack. So then if we just put a simple 4 on the floor there, or alternatively we could use that as a bass. So even though you're making a kick, you can more or less make basically a bass note. Add a bit of chorus. So that is having a look at kick design, but you could also use it for bass design as well within the Digitakt. In this next example, we're going to look at how to control your bass material within the Digitakt using the compressor. So in the settings, what I have is this bass sound. Something very basic. But the settings that I have got on here are as follows. We're going to adjust the threshold, but the attack is at 6, the release is at 17, 7.2 dB in makeup gain, the ratio is 3, my sidechain source is track 2, which is where my bass is, and I have set my sidechain filter. I'm going to adjust that, and I'm going to adjust the dry wet. So first of all, what I like to do is just bring my threshold all the way down and then turn obviously the comp all the way up so I can hear what it's actually doing. I'm going to set my release about 53 just because I want it to be a nice even bass sound, and then I'm going to adjust this sidechain filter as well. So all we're getting there is the attack, and what I'm going to do then is just come back on the threshold. Then A and B it. So if we play this, it's just leveling it out that little bit. So that is how I utilize the bass. So in this next part, we are going to look at fast forward and rewind effects within the Digitakt and how we can do that using LFOs. So what I have is this drum loop, and what I want to do is just recreate a classic forward and rewind cassette player style effect. So if I go over to my mixer mod page, I can go over to the obviously the settings. I want to set the destination as tune. I want the multiplier to be 256 free flowing, and the speed up to should be 64. The wave type is ramp, and the mode is set to half. We want in half because we just want it to go up to the top and then stay there. We don't want it to come back down to its normal level. And then all we have to do is then use the depth from its normal position over to the plus position, and this will replicate that classic effect, cassette effect. So if I just play it, and you've got different settings within the preset manual as well. So 0 to 20 is slow, 20 to 40 is medium, 40 to 62 is fast, and then and depending on what your tuning is, basically 62 plus I've put as max, but if you go further down, you'll get more of a range out of this. If not, then I just like to play about with it. You can also use a second LFO to modulate the depth of the first LFO. So this LFO, which is set up as it is, if we keep the depth at its position, which is 0, if we go over to our next page, we'll set this up as it is. So we want kind of a slow time for the same ramp. So all we'll do is just copy them settings, go over to our next page, press down on the mod button, and then press paste, except this time the destination, we want that to be on depth. We want to change our BPM or multiplier to 1, so it's nice and slow. And then what this is going to do then is it's going to smoothly in the waveform lead up to the speed of the cassette. So for example, if I just put this on 24, it will act like it's slowly starting to come up, build up. And if we go slower, we can start to do stuff like that. We can also add effects to replicate sort of the cassette field. So if we just add a bit of bit crush, maybe some sample rate reduction, we're starting to slowly get that. That cassette effect. To make it go in reverse, all we have to do is go to the SRC page and then turn back the loop mode to rev loop or reverse loop, and then it'll basically start in reverse. And we can see what the actual player is doing. By going onto the SRC page and further doing it yourself. So you can get the timings by the LFO table that is in the manual. I've put it up on the screen now anyway. But you can basically set a trigger, and then you could have that trigger playing out for 32 steps, and you can set that to say, right, I want that to be at full speed at 16 steps. And then it's going to play out another 16 steps, and then it's just going to stop. So that's the fast forward and reverse effect. Next, we have another tape effect. So this tape effect, we're going to look at how we can replicate a broken cassette player. So I'm just using the exact same sample as before, just a simple drum loop. And then I'm going to head over to my LFO page 1 and then set it up as it is. In the manual it shows 1 to 8, but this is more or less dependent on the source material. Like everything is in this manual, it's dependent on what you've got in front of you. You just got to play about and tweak about the parameters and stuff. So if I just set this up to what I had it before, I think it was this, we can sort of get like a scratching sort of wobbly sound. But what's good about the random waveform is that we can set the slew up, and what this does is it glides from one position to the next. It's sort of like a smoothing sort of thing. The more depth we have, the crazier and the faster we are. Again, with adding the effects. You can get that nice broken sort of cassette player effect. The mode is in free mode, so it can just play throughout whatever. The multi-mode is also in free mode, and then the speed is just set to max. Alter these two to however you want. Slow speeds obviously sound like it's catching up with itself. Faster speeds are more smoother. And then the depth is how far you want the tuning to go. It's nice that on pads and stuff like that, but try it on all sorts. You can try it on all sorts of stuff. You can basically reverse your sample. And then you can do all sorts with it. So that is the broken cassette player within the Digitakt using the LFOs. Last one example that I'd like to show you within the preset booklet is the self-oscillating. I thought I'd show this because it could damage your speakers if you didn't do this correctly. Even though the feature's there, it's obviously just one of the things that I just think I'd like to show you. So it doesn't really matter what sample you have. All you need to do is go to your FX page, take your delay sends up to a reasonable level, and then once you trigger it, that audio then is going to go into your delay. We get to the delay page by pressing function and then the effects. If you was on the chorus page like me, just press on the up button to get to the delay page, page 1 of 3. And then when we get to 100, that will start to self-oscillate. So if I press this now, you'll hear it slowly just being there. What I'm going to do is just push it even more. You can hear that low build up. You just got to be careful of that. So what I usually do is take that down to low and then put it on 140. And then use the low pass filter to maybe take some of them highs out, even some of the lows. But what's good with that is you could then basically resample that. So if I just go over to the sample page, I just want to make sure that my main left and right is selected. Set this to an appropriate level. Obviously it's too hot at the minute. This is why you need to be careful with it. Just get it to a decent level, and then all I want to do is just take one step. So that is the waveform. If I just pull back on the feedback gain, turn my volume back up to 100, go to this, I can then hear that. So what I want to do is then zoom in on the waveform. So then I want to save that. If I save this as waveform delay feedback, and then I will bring that and I'll just drop that onto track 10. I will then get rid of that, come back into this, turn that down, and then now we've got a usable basically lead. Add a bit of bit crush, sample rate reduction, can even make it into a bass note. And that's just a good way to get more tonal stuff using the actual Digitakt itself. The one thing that I'll just end up with is whatever the fundamental is, the more frequencies, the top end frequencies you take out, the more of a sine wave you'll get when you get into that fundamental frequency. It's basically like a sine wave like that is, but it's just, as you can see, it's just got a bit of character. And then you could basically use this as maybe a wobble. And that's in the preset booklet as well, which is like it's a wobble. So you can go as high as you want, but subtle. So there are a look at the preset booklet. The preset booklet is available on the website. You can purchase it, or you can sign up to the Patreon, where you will get that booklet for free, and you'll help support the channel. So I hope you enjoy the booklet, and I will see you in the next video.